You're listening to the 197th edition of the Bitachon podcast, and we will continue. We're learning the passuk together in Tehillim, chapter Pei Dalid, passuk Yud Gimel. Hashem tzavakos asher adam boteach bach. God, Lord of hosts, praiseworthy is the man who trusts in you. So I just want to read the last thing that we said last time. Start off with that because it's about the party. Who are the ones that celebrate? The ones who trust and go simply with Hashem. They have chen. They have grace. Chen is lashon chinam. They get a free ride, so to speak, but it means that people naturally, for no reason, they don't even sense it, why they're attracted to that person. But there's chen and there's kavod, there's honor. And that's where the party is. That's where the celebration is. Wherever that person goes, they'll have chen. People will naturally just gravitate towards them and respect them and give them what they want and honor. God does not hold that back from someone who receives Him. Lets Hashem into their life. It's saying that a person who trusts in Hashem, that's the one who won't be missing anything. You'll have it all, and you'll have it easily. So here's the new stuff. The passuk said in the passuk before that Hashem is like a sun, a protector, a shield. What it means is that even though Hashem is a sun for us, He shines in our lives. He's a shield for us. He protects us from our troubles. And God gives us grace in the eyes of maybe the President of the United States, maybe some other powerful, influential figures. Daniel v'chavirav, we find this to be true in regards to Daniel and his friends. They had chen because of the miracles they experienced, or because of the fact that they were just good advisors to the king. They could ask whatever they wanted. Mordechai and Esther, they got into the king's good graces. They were able to ask for the decree to be rescinded. Ultimately, Esther's son Darius, was the one who gave permission to build the Beis Hamikdash. And we can imagine this even happening now. Imagine the President of the United States, the current president, and those who are part of his cabinet, etc. I heard the video, you may have heard it too, of one of them saying, there's no reason there shouldn't be a temple here. The truth is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not hold back anything good from those who go with Him simply. But there's a warning, and there's an important thing that we need to remember, even when we are in the good graces of those who have the power. Hashem is the Lord of hosts. Praiseworthy is the one who trusts in Him. We don't want any kind of cooperation, dealings with, help from these kinds of wicked people. And we only want to mention Your name, Hashem. And think about it. The story of Purim, Mordechai and Esther were able to rescind the decree, but they had to depend on Achashverosh for that, and he was wicked. And yes, we were able to build the Beis Hamikdash, but it was always precarious because we were dependent on the whim of whoever was in charge at that moment. So we don't want to be dependent on that kind of person. Even if right now we're in His good graces, we want to be dependent on You, Hashem, and that's all. Just You. Says the Radak, Ki shemesh yemagin Hashem lekim, umor gadol hu liyosh mechoshech hagolus. We're going to switch here now to talk about Mashiach, the Messianic age, and the Beis Hamikdash, the temple that we're waiting for, and getting out of our gullus, our exile, whether it's in America or Europe or anywhere in the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu lights up the world for us. Those who are sitting in the darkness of exile takes us out of darkness to light. God saves us from evil and He protects us. Hashem helps us. And what does it mean that Hashem helps us? And what does it mean that God gives us grace and honor? It means that He helps us, He aids us so that we can continue to go with Him, to walk on His path with simplicity. And we can do tshuva, return to Him with all of our hearts. He says an amazing thing, and we never could have imagined this until today. Grace and honor God gives them in front of all of the nations of the world. At the time, and hopefully this is now, at the time when Am Yisrael is about to be redeemed from their exile, there's going to be a respect for us. The nations of the world will respect us. They'll say, hey, you guys, you're okay. You're amazing. Wow. Shem tzivaka is ashrei mi sheyiftach b'cha lo yiash libo l'orech hagolus. What a chizik it has to be for us in this moment, in this very moment, in this time, that our exile is going to end. It's been so long, it seems like it's been never ending. 2,000 years, it seems like it may never end, but this has to strengthen us. Praiseworthy is the one who trusts in Hashem and does not give up, despite the length of the gullus, of the exile. V'yiftach b'choshet etzienu mei hagolus, v'tivnei Beis Hamikdash. And trust in you, Hashem, that you'll take us out of this exile. You'll build your Beis Hamikdash. And bring us to that place that our souls so desire, so wish for. We're just waiting for Hashem's revelation. Says the Malbim, Hashem tzivakas ashrei adam b'teach bach, shal kol panim yeshanu l'v'tayach, shigalenu v'shiyibanu Beis Hamikdash. Malbim also says, because the entire chapter was talking about the kisuf and nichsufa v'gam kol nafshi l'chatzis Hashem, the desire and the yearning for the Beis Hamikdash, for the temple, for the revelation of Hashem in our lives. Hashgacha pratis. What could be wanted more than to see Hashem reveal Himself in our lives? This is what we're waiting for. We want to be there, and what's holding it back? Or what do we need to do in order to get it? Is to have Bitachon in Hashem, that He's going to redeem us. He's going to build His Beis Hamikdash, or that His Beis Hamikdash will be built. Maybe Sheyi Boneh Beis Hamikdash, because we don't know. Are we supposed to build it? Is He going to build it? The passuk says, praiseworthy is the person who places his strength, who knows that his strength comes from Hashem. That's the Malbim. Says the Alshich. Alshich says something very interesting. This is so important. I said, earlier in this chapter, the author of the chapter said, the Bnei Kairach, he said, I want to be in the Chatzis Hashem, I want to be in the courtyard of Hashem. That's the place, that's the best place to be, to exist, to draw strength from. Yismach Gadol Yisrael. Because it's a tremendous support for Am Yisrael. When we have a Beis Hamikdash, we know that they would bring out the Aron HaKodesh with them, which of course represents the Torah, and represents our relationship with Hashem. But they would bring that out with them because that was what they knew that they could rely upon. When they saw Hashem's open manifestation in the Beis Hamikdash, they knew. V'gam HaTzadik. Also a righteous individual. We rely on tzaddikim. We ask them for brachas. We ask them for blessings. We ask them for guidance. We look to them and we ask for their prayers. Ki Magen Ul Yisrael. Because he protects. A tzaddik, his merits protect Am Yisrael, right? We have a shemesh. Could be he's saying, the Alshich. The shemesh is the Beis Hamikdash, the sun. And the Magen is the tzaddik. Ach Hashem tzivakas ashrei adam. Habilti samivtach lo yel hamikdash v'lo yel tzaddik. An important thing here. Says the Alshich, we're not to rely even on a Beis Hamikdash. And even on a tzaddik. On a righteous individual who we have tremendous respect for and we ask for his blessings. But we always have to remember it's not him. And it's not that building which is a Beis Hamikdash which we so pine for, we so desire. The bottom line is that it always comes back to where are we being drawn towards? The tzaddik is there to bring us back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not to rely on the tzaddik. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that we're supposed to rely upon. The Beis Hamikdash is there to remind us to rely upon Hashem. It reminds me of the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah that says, when Am Yisrael was fighting against Amalek, every time Moshe Rabbeinu would raise up his hands, Am Yisrael would win, would succeed in battle. Whenever his hands would fall, we would lose. And the Mishnah says, Did the hands of Moshe Rabbeinu, were they causing us to win, or did they make the war or break the war? What's going on? But every time that Am Yisrael would raise up their hand, when Moshe Rabbeinu would raise up his hand, Am Yisrael would look up to heaven and they would be meshabedes libam laviyam shebashamayim. They would give their hearts over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what it's supposed to do. The tzaddik is a guide to point up to heaven and for us to look up and remind ourselves who's the source of it all. And the Beis Hamikdash is there also. Today we could look at the Kaisel and see the magnificence of just the Kaisel, the outer wall of the Har HaBayis. So that's the first part. That's the Alshich. The Alshich says furthermore, but I'm entire tzivakos. Yeah. Why does it describe Hashem as the Lord of hosts? Hashem tzivakos, the Lord of hosts. What's the concept here? Ki asar she'imay mesei mispar. Let's say you have an officer, a commanding officer, or a king, or an important person who has only a few members of his entourage, only a few members of his army. Small amount of people. So, even an individual is important to him. If you have a king, he has a tremendous army, hundreds of thousands of soldiers. The king is not going to be so concerned about the individual soldier to do whatever he can for him. He's one soldier amongst the hundreds of thousands. Ki yacharu, he's an individual. Achata Hashem. But you, Hashem, God is infinite. So, for God, even though there's myriads, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions, trillions, Adein Mispar, infinite numbers, or close to infinite numbers of creatures and creations that he has. And he's the God over everything, the spiritual spheres, the physical spheres. But for God, there's no difference between an individual and the multitudes. Right? God, the Lord of hosts, praiseworthy is the man, singular man, one person, you. One person, me. I can trust in him. Although I'm alone, Although I'm an individual, I'm so small, maybe, I think in my own eyes. But all I need to do is trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God doesn't distinguish between an individual and the multitudes. God is a king, but for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God also cares about me, and He cares about you, each individual. And each of us have the ability to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to be so joyous, to be so me'ushar. Ashrei Adam v'teach bach. Lucky is the man. Lucky, we're so lucky that we can talk about Bitachon, that we can talk about a relationship with Hashem. And we can recognize that Hashem cares about me, that my life is important to Him. Last point here from the Be'er Avram. Amar Hashem tzavakos liyos Hashem adon al kol tzva shamayim. God is the master of all of the hosts of the heavens. He brings it back to getting out of exile, pining for Beis Hamikdash. We think we want money, or we think we want success, or we think we want love, or whatever it is that we think we want. But really what we want is to be whole. Really what we want is to have Hashem in our lives. Because when Hashem is in my life, I have everything. In the gullus, in the exile, in the darkness, so it seems like I have to do something else to have my needs met. But once the gullus ends, the exile ends, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mala ha'aretz de'as Hashem, the whole world is filled with God's knowledge. That's all we need, is God's knowledge. Ashrav shemer b'tchaynai, yosech chazak v'nemen b'munasai. Praiseworthy is the one who, a person has bitachon, says the Be'er Avram. A person has bitachon. I trust in this, I trust in that, I trust in my money, I trust in my business acumen. But praiseworthy is the one who directs his trust to trust in the one who has it all, who's trustworthy, who has all the answers, that all of the good really comes from. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again next time.